Welcome to Coffee with Ken. I'm Ken Biberai, a managing director at Savills, a leading tenant advisory commercial real estate firm. In the news today, Vice President Harris is on her way to Germany for a national security conference where she'll meet with the president of the Ukraine. At the Olympics, the Canadian women's hockey team defeated Team USA last night. Today's topic is Soccer Storms America, and we are joined by Danita Johnson, the President of Business Operations for DC United. Great to see you.
Thank you.
And for those watching, we are on Zoom, but we are also in person, and we're grateful to an audience for coming out to Audi Field today at the Heineken Suite for our conversation. So Danita, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Right? This is a year in as President of Business Operations. How's it been? What are you surprised by? Are you going to stay? What's going on?
I hope Jason's watching. No, it's been amazing. It has been such a run of a year. And I think for many of us that lead business or managing in different areas of business here, not only in Washington, but around the country, have been through so much in the last 2+ years. I can't believe it's been that long. And this last year for me of joining DC United was kind of coming out of that, I think, second wave of things. I can't count anymore on those, but coming out of that and coming into an organization that has been a staple across this league. And then having to come in and kind of like rebuild and restructure after so much of what happened in 2020. It's been a challenge. It's one I'm excited that I got to step up to the plate and do. And I'm really excited about where we're going.
Well, the stadium looks amazing. You started the early part of your career in DC, but that was like 10 years ago. What's it like coming back to the district? Lots of changes, lots of neighborhoods that didn't really, weren't activated like they are today.
Absolutely. I feel like the streets look very different. I'm often having to think, I thought this was here before, it's not there now, or this is new every time I make my way around the city. So I love to see the progress made here in DC, and it's exciting. Our stadium being one of those, you know, it was not here when I was here previously, the stadium, we're at RFK during that time. And so the continued growth of the city and, you know, the opportunities continue to grow in that aspect.
And we're a bit of a sports town now, right? I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing when you look at DC today and what's happened with the Nats and the Mystics and the Caps, and Washington Commanders now have a new name, and DC United, right? I mean, it really wasn't a sports town before, but it feels like there's a real moment. So how do you leverage that into the fan experience and kind of grow a base of people to get excited about soccer in DC?
I think for us, it's time to level it up. Right? When you become a sports town, as DC has become, it's your fans expect more. There's a higher expectation of what happens in stadium, our facility itself, overall experience. And it's something that we're really honing into from a front office perspective, because we know when you become a sports town and you have sports fans here locally, they have high expectations, and we need to meet and exceed those expectations for our customers and our fans. So that's what we're really focused in on as this town has developed, and we're excited to be a part of that.
Fantastic. So take us a little bit through your career and lessons learned over, you know, the various hats you've worn, whether it was at, you know, the Mystics or WNBA and now kind of transitioning to soccer. I mean, it's a big jump. So I'd love to hear kind of, you know, what your career has been like, what lessons you've taken from those past experiences, and how you've made this pivot from really basketball to soccer.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really every day getting up and learning and applying the skills in which we get every day from the work that we're doing. I find myself often putting myself in the most challenging situations. I don't know why, but it's something that I think I thrive in. I like to go into spaces that maybe are uncharted waters or things that might be fearful to somebody else leading. I don't like the easy job. I like something.
I just love having coffee.
Yeah. So I really enjoy that aspect. I like the challenge. And so what I've learned in my career is, I always tell my staff, I say this all the time, I feel like a broken record, but treat people well, right? Stay dedicated to your craft and know that each day you're going to learn something new and figure out how to apply it in what you're doing. And I think if I stay with that, and also the last piece of that is having a sense of belief, like belief in yourself and the work that you're doing, and lead with that. And people want to be with you, right? And if you kind of carry that aura, that essence with you, the sales will come, the next role will come. You know, I always say, I stopped applying for jobs a long time ago. And it's not to be like, oh, I'm great. It's not that. It's because how I show up every single day and how we show up every single day matters. And my mother always told me, people are always watching you. Your parents have probably always told you that too. And you never know who's watching. And I know that somebody's always watching. And if I can get up and represent myself well, it will happen. And I just try to live in that and get up every day and showcase that in all that I do.
And then making the transition from basketball to soccer. I mean, easy, hard. I mean, that's called the pitch, right?
It is. Let's talk about the new lingo I had to learn. I had to get my soccer lingo down really early because if you are around avid soccer fans, they will question you. They will make sure that you understand and respect the sport. And for me, it was understanding and respecting the sport really quickly. And I'm still learning every day. But the transition to me, the indoor outdoor is a little different. I will say that. Can't wear my heels the same way on this cement as I did in the arena.
That's time in LA, right?
Yeah, and it was definitely a whole different thing. But I think the biggest transition for me is the fandom is a little different. Like the fans, like the supporter groups, like we have massive fan groups in basketball. But the way that the supporters truly take on the inside experience that happens in the stadium is one of the differentiators. Like in basketball, it was like planning every time out, every quarter. How are you entertaining? How are you doing this, right? In soccer, because it's a consistent 90 minutes of play, it's often the supporters that are, bringing on the entertainment. And so that type of support is very different. And it kind of changes a little bit of your essence of your match day experience when you really are aligned in that sense.
Oh, that's good. Talk a little bit about the business of sports, right? So I think a lot of people come to games, they enjoy it, they're looking at the coach, and they're deriving their experience based on the performance on the field. But so much goes behind the scenes from a business operations perspective. What does the business of sports look like to you? Where you're focused, where you're trying to add value? And then also, how are you working collaboratively with the actual sports operation folks, with the coach, with the players, with the team? How does that all work?
Yeah, for me, the business of sport really is like a traditional business, but everything we do is front facing, right? So imagine every single day your job is judged by thousands and thousands of people. That's the differentiation. So that's the big differentiation. But like when I look at our business, like we do community work like many organizations do, right? We're working on our foundation. We have our marketing department, our comms department, and each of those areas of our business. And obviously the sales is a big piece, right? So what we do from sponsorship sales, what we do from ticket sales are all a representation of us. So often I feel like our work is right on display every single day. And you all know good organizations and bad organizations in sports. You probably could differentiate them between them really well. And my job is to make sure that we are always on the good side of that. And so when I look at the business, it's really about building those functionality. Building a sustainable business is really important. So like infrastructure is big, people, process. I believe those things help build profitability. And so what we have to do is make sure that as we build our people, we create processes, we put them in an opportunity to succeed. And that's through support of different elements that they need to do their jobs every day more effectively. And I think that's what really helps to move our business as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think coming out of the pandemic, so much focus is on people and talent, but also on social impact and being good corporate citizens as well, even for a sports team. So talk a little bit about how you approach community engagement and philanthropy and being a part of the fabric of DC and how important that is to your own business growth and success.
Yeah, I think when we talk about like fandom and community, I think it's almost hand in hand, right? You have these people that are supporting you every single day. They're cheering you on, sometimes through the bad, but lots of times through the good. They're cheering you on. They're there for you. They're wearing your merchandise. They speak about your brand. And for us, we need to be a brand and a team that's not only reflective of our community, but also creates access to our community, right? So even now I've evaluated like some of our price points. How do we create access? What community programs we're doing, which is why we're working on our foundation. We have 4 key pillars that we focus on from a community perspective, and we're always striving to really have impact. One of our big things right now, and we just brought on our new head of social responsibility, is that I don't want to just be like posing and handing out checks, right? It's wonderful, but the work that we actually do to make impact, to help change somebody's life, their everyday situation, and that's where we're restructuring our CR work too, and our community work is about like everyday impact for people instead of just like a broad stroke just to look great. Like it doesn't work well. I mean, it works well for some, but that's just not what we're gonna do. But that's what we're trying for.
So you're building fans for
forever. And we're helping people. We're truly helping people. And like, you think about what's happened in the last couple of years, and sports has always had an impact on society, right? When you look at generations and generations, sports has always been a platform for voice. And even in my time in the WNBA, and you look at what those women did, that is exactly what this was. It was more than just a game. It's a platform. And when you have this stage and this platform, it's our responsibility to make sure that we are doing right with that. And that's what we continue to look to strive for. And I won't let our team do anything else but that.
You've spoken a lot about storytelling. How important is that for you as someone kind of representing the brand and the team to get out there and tell stories? I mean, how do you weave in storytelling in the past and your other iterations and then today running DC United?
I think the storytelling creates connectivity, right? If we are the ones that live and breathe this every day, and our ability to share our story with you drives connectivity with us. And so one of the things I talk about with my team is telling a holistic story about our brand and who we are. And, you know, one of the big shifts that we've talked about internally is a lot of our focus has always been about our first team and the technical side, which is wonderful. That's a big piece of this. But there's so much more. There's stories of our staff. There's stories of the organizations that we work with, our community, of what we're doing out in Loudoun County. Like, we have to tell a holistic story about who we are for people to actually connect with us, because people may connect with us because of a star player. People may connect with us because we showed up at their school, right? And so when it comes to storytelling, I like consistency of our brand and identity as we move forward, but I also like to tell the holistic story of who we are. But that holds us accountable to show up in more than one way.
When you think about building a fan base, one of the things that I found interesting from a previous conversation you had is we're still in the first or second generation of fans, not only for DC United, but for the WNBA. So how do you think about that, putting it into a generational perspective, right? Like the Washington Commanders, right? They've been here forever. A lot of football teams have been around forever, right? But this is all new, first, second generation. How do you think about that? How do you plan for the future? And what's that landscape look like?
No, it's the fun part, right? It's one of the reasons why I love leagues like MLS and WNBA. And I've worked in other leagues as well, but there's something about being at the beginning stages of this. I think we're at 27 right now. We're on year 27. And we just started a couple of other supporter groups started last year that were like 8, 9 years old when they first started coming to our matches. And now they're leading some of our supporter groups, right? So that's the next generation. So why is it important? It's important for us to have that legacy. So when you look at legacy brand teams and organizations, this point is so critical, and I'm so excited to lead in these moments, because 15, 20 years from now, when I'm long and gone at that point, it's somebody else is remembering what we did during this time. And so the legacy is important. What we do with this generations of fans is important, because it actually plans for the long term. It plans for traditions for the long term. It gives like that identity to our brand. And we're lucky that we've been here 26 years. We were one of the flagship teams that came along with MLS when it started back in '96. But that, now we have to carry that legacy.
Amazing. So when you think about running business operations, not only for DC United, but for this stadium, how do you transform this into a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 event complex? I mean, it's unbelievable being here in the Heineken Suite and seeing what a great venue it is. I mean, what are your plans and thoughts about just activating the space in general?
I'm so excited about that part. It's something we're actually just finished kind of rebuilding out our events team and creating some new focuses in that area. And one of my things for Audi Field, when I talk about that outside of DC United, is for it to have its own identity, right? People will come here for DC United matches. That will be a part of the fabric of this. But what we're looking to do is really create and have like, you know what? I come to Audi Field for this. I come to Audi Field for that. So what's our signature thing, right? Is it our festivals? Is it our fairs? Is it our shows? Is it our international events? As soccer is a representation of like the international game, the world's game, right? So as we're going through that process right now, one, the continued development of our real estate around us, which we have some things coming online pretty soon, so be on the lookout. It's going to be a busy next year and a half for us. And in addition to that, signature events, right? What is really telling the story of who we are? I can't give too much ahead around that, but there's some things coming down the line.
Exciting. Give us a level set on just soccer in America, like where we are today, where you think it's headed, building fan base nationally, competing globally.
I mean, you look at the women's national team, you look at the U.S. men's national team, the improvement of those teams on the pitch has been phenomenal. What that shows you is that from the beginning of young children playing this game, that the training, the access, the ability to get stronger and better is happening. And when you see our young players, we look at our players at Loudoun County, through our USL team up until like Kevin Paredes, who just got picked up internationally. He was a homegrown player of ours. The game is changing. Our talent is developing. We're investing in the sport. You see that not only at the youth levels, but now look at MLS as a whole. I mean, our own stadiums. We're not playing, most of our teams have their own stadiums. If not, they're in the process of building their own locations, which is huge for us. Soccer-specific stadiums are phenomenal, right? So what does that show you? That shows you progress. That shows you longevity and sustainability. And not only in the men's game, but in the women's game as well. What they're doing in Kansas City, the build out of their own facility, their training facility, like these are things that were not happening 10 years ago. So the game is here to stay. Get involved now, and you will be part of that generation.
One of the things I love about you and the team is leveraging technology and thinking forward. So you just announced a big partnership with Shift4 for ease of transactions and so on. You joined the board of Buzzer. We had Bohan on talking with Ken recently. Talk about that, the acceleration of technology for providing broader access to people, the fan experience, how it all ties in and how you're thinking about leveraging technology.
Yeah, for us, it's about efficiency. When I think about technology, I want to be able to serve our consumers in the best way possible and our fans. So even with our relationship with Shift4, it's an interlocking of all of our platforms here in Stadium, from when you purchase in store at our club shop to when you're at the concession stand purchasing a hot dog. You're now on a consistent platform. Just like whether you have an iPhone or a Galaxy, there's a thing that happens with consistency that makes your consumer experience much better. And so for us, with the incorporation of like different technology platforms, my involvement with Buzzer, it's about how are we forward thinking, right? How are we thinking about how we're presenting our game? And I even think about my relationship with Buzzer. It's like these snippets, these moments, these highlights, like how do we then repurpose that thing about how we're actually sharing content to our consumers? And then for those fans that we're trying to draw in, how are we building upon that? So technology is a big piece for us. On the back end, I think we have a wonderful business intelligence team that has moved so much forward in this past year. And I'm excited for where we're going.
That's great. Talk a little bit more about that, just in terms of the content distribution, right? FanDuel, DraftKings. You saw it during the Super Bowl, right? Like more people watching on different platforms and monitoring live time action in a different way, a Buzzer, et cetera. How do you stay ahead of the curve? I mean, things are moving so quick.
Yeah, it's access points for us. We have a couple of things coming up that we'll be announcing. In addition, I'm looking at one of my comms guys back there because we're excited about some things we're working on. But even for us last year, like from a television access standpoint, we're now on NBC Sports Washington. You can watch from your phone, you can watch from your computer, you can go to dcunited.com and watch. So anywhere you go, we can be with you. And so that's where like I think the content we're talking about is like, how are we with you? You keep your phone in your pocket, right? Whether it's your phone, your iPad, like your television, they're all access points. And for us, we need to make sure we're in those areas that create easy for anybody to see us.
So one of the things we love talking about is the intersection of business and politics. How important is public-private sector engagement, collaboration for you, for growth, for success? It's one thing to go direct to community and team up with the Heinekens and FanDuels of the world, but how do you leverage government to help you grow and build more connectivity in the district?
It absolutely is important for us. We've done events with the mayor's office here. We have to be part of our community in multiple ways. So with those relationships, even our stadium being where it is and located here, that's about our ownership working with local politicians and things of that nature to make this happen, right? It's not done alone. So we will continue to be involved. We'll continue to push forward in those areas as we have to. But it is important. And we play hand in hand because it can even help us with some of our community efforts. Those relationships can help push forward some of the organizations that we work with. I mean, we work heavily with DC Scores. Like, how can we assist them through our relationships to continue to push forward what they're doing here in the community? We need to be a part of that. We have to be at that table. We should be a voice.
So you're running DC United during a pandemic. What's that been like? What's recruitment? What's retention like for you? What's it like leading and building a team, live time while we're dealing with all of this uncertainty?
It's challenging. I think that's probably what most of y'all, if you're in here hiring people, retaining people at this point, it is not an easy thing. I think it really is a day-by-day thing. And we have like a women's group here with our club. We had a women's happy hour yesterday, and I was talking to a couple of young women. They asked me, like, how did you get one, mentally through it, and two, like to rebuild us to where we are now. We've like doubled in our size of staff, working on retention. And I was like, it's a day by day thing, right? And it is about communication with your team. It's about building trust with people. It's about creating an environment where people can actually grow and do their work and give them the space and opportunity to do so. But that also comes, and I put this a lot back on us as leaders. That comes from us being confident. That comes from us understanding that we have to trust people and like giving them the ability to do their jobs. And when you don't do that and you shortchange people on that, they will leave, right? And so like our own fears can get in the way of retaining staff. Our own fears can get in the way of creating good culture. And sometimes we have to put our egos to the side and really think about the people. And when we start to do that, we can create great environments. But that is an exercise that leadership often has to do and understand.
Stay on the leadership vein for a second. Talk about goal setting, what you're hoping to, inspire others to believe, and what you're trying to do as a mentor for young women within the organization and beyond who are watching you and your leadership.
I think for me, I just want people to be inspired to be their best selves. Like, be who you are and know that how you show up every day can be enough. And also that you can be better too, right? So like each day, great, you're you, but like you can be better. You can work at something. If you're struggling with something, maybe you're having an issue where like, you know what, I don't feel like my voice is being heard, or maybe I don't feel like I'm being recognized enough. How do you deal with that with yourself, right? How do you start to, even as at that stage, how do you put your ego inside and realize that your contributions matter, right? And so those are things for like the people that I'm working with and my younger staff is really like helping them build confidence, skill. I'll push them and understand that you're going to have tough moments and you're going to have disagreeable moments. It's how you get up the next day and deal with that really matters. Because if you carry that with you every day, you're not going to grow. It's hindering you.
So lots of people here in the room today, lots of people watching. How can they be helpful to you in what you're trying to build here today? I mean, what do you need from the community, the business community, political community?
Yeah, I think for us, it's continued support. I think support shows up in multiple ways. One, showing up at the stadium, so it's always great. You want to buy a ticket, always do that. Two,
Season tickets even better.
Season tickets even better.
DC United.
I have no shame. But so like I think one is obviously showing up. I think two, being a voice for us. Right. So like when you're talking about sports in the community, when you're talking about organizations, like being a voice for us matters. And you never know who, like somebody was like, oh, I didn't really know about that. It wasn't something I would necessarily try. That matters, right? From a support standpoint, we're always looking for partners too. But those are things that we always look for. I just think being a voice, it is simple as like, I know it sounds so simple and I even get bad at times, but like sharing, resharing, retweeting, like little things like that to help build the ecosystem really do help our brand, help our identity, and help push us forward.
Last question. This is a real platform for you to do a lot of good in general, whether it's creating more access to opportunity, opening doors. What do you hope your legacy will be after your time here at DC United?
I think for me, my biggest thing is what I talk to my team about is like being best in class. And I'm going to overuse this probably for the next couple of years, but I really want us to be a destination to come and work. I want us to be a place that helps grow people. I want us to be a place that affects change. And when my time is done here, that's what I'd like to be said. I'd be like, you know what? Danita like changed things for the good and we made an impact together and I mattered. Not me, but them.
Well, I want to thank you for hosting us today, having us at the amazing Audi field and learning a little bit more about what you've been up to with DC United. I want to thank everyone for coming out today, being here in person. Everyone tuning in, I want to let you know the next Coffee with Ken is going to be February 23rd with Jason Grummett, the founder and CEO of the Bipartisan Policy Institute. In the meantime, visit coffeewithken.com, check out past sessions, and stay up to date. Thanks.